What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Gary Russell Jr., Mark Magsayo. I saw this fight. It was very interesting. Very interesting. Gary Russell Jr. came out elusive, using the jab, countering with the straight left. He did that mostly all night. The big difference was in the fourth round, he threw a jab, torn a tendon, or injured a tendon more. Okay, and I'll get to that in a second. And he didn't throw a jab since. Okay? But what did he do? From rounds 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, he pretty much boxed, used experience, movement, straight left. And Magsayo did not, I repeat, did not adjust. Now, rounds 10, he became more active. But for the most part, he was getting beat by a one-handed man. Okay, that's what I saw. And if someone loses, they lose. Right? But I think I would rather lose than win to a one-armed man. You know what I mean? Like, rounds 10, 11, and 12, he done more to show that he wanted it. Not necessarily more. I just think he done more. But he was still getting caught with the left. Not as much, because I think he was busy. I think there was a sense of urgency from rounds 10, 11, and 12. And that's something that did pique interest. But him winning the fight, I don't think he won the fight. I don't agree with Steve Farhood's scorecard. Now, was it a robbery, though? It wasn't necessarily a robbery because of how the scorecards were. Okay? One had it for Gary Russell Jr. The other ones had it 115 to 113 for Magsayo. But I didn't see it like they saw it. I saw that fight being won by a one-armed man that literally had an injury. And if that was the case, if everyone saw he had an injury, that means the judges saw he had an injury. And it's not what a fighter does, it's what the other fighter didn't do. Magsayo didn't get him out of there. See, I'm disappointed in Magsayo because Magsayo was this newcoming 23-0, 16 KOs. And this guy is really just trying to, he's big guy, powerful, and he's used to knocking these guys out, getting them out of there. And you couldn't take out a one-armed guy. He dispatched totally with going to the body, which he was doing pretty good in rounds 1, 2, and 3. And then I think he got comfortable trying to headhunt once he saw that Gary Russell hasn't threw a jab in these amount of rounds, but he's popping you in the face with the same fucking punch. There was a body punch here and there for Magsayo in the, sporadically throughout those rounds, but that was a boxing clinic by a one-armed guy that you couldn't get out, neither did you have an answer for. He was a problem to you and for you. It was a challenge. Fighting a one-armed guy. It's like fighting a one-eyed guy, fucking Cyclops, and he beats you. Okay? He had a handicap. What is this, red belt? You know what I mean? Like, him happy and this and that and the other. It just shows you the narrative of how boxing is. I think people were tired of Gary Russell. I think the inactivity, the outspokenness, that'll always get you in the doghouse, like Floyd. Throw his ass in the motherfucking doghouse. Right? He did get the fights he wanted. He missed weight. And let me talk about Gary Russell. Gary Russell really surprised me when he did this. Oh, I injured it 2 weeks ago. Look, Two, injuring it, the type of injury, maybe he didn't think it was that severe, but he was definitely aware of it. So it was his choice to go out there. So it was his choice. He chose to fight. Now, I know that it's been a long time coming since he's been in the ring, but I wouldn't have done it. You know what I mean? Like, I think him knowing what he, knows now, I don't think he would have done that, because imagine Gary Russell with two fucking hands. It would have been a different fight. Gary Russell has a great right hook. He's a southpaw. I think that would have landed. That could have landed behind the left. Okay? Especially when he turned Magsayo and was able to elude Magsayo after landing that left over and over and over again. Follow with the right hand. Bop, bop, bop. Because he has some of the fastest hands in boxing. Okay? Look at the Lomachenko fight. You know what I mean? He's a guy that has very quick hands, and you had a guy with one fucking arm that was beating this other guy to the punch. That was supposed to be the second coming. I was very disappointed. Now, did he win? I wouldn't have gave it to him. I would have gave it 5-7 in favor of Gary Russell. That's how I scored it. But knowing what Gary Russell knew before he went in there, he had no business being in there in the first place. So that was just his mistake, his decision to make. Bars. But I think at the end of the day, it was time for them to get rid of Gary Russell Jr. His inactivity, dude, his decisions, his business decisions stink. His decision to get in the ring, it stunk, because if you wouldn't 100% like that, come on, leg or whatever, rib, that's different. But arm, dude, shoulder, come on, you're going to have problems with that. And the older he gets, how long you think he's going to be, out? I'm like this. If you knew your arm was injured, shit, you've been off this long. You should have fucking waited a little bit longer to get your shit together. But then again, he hasn't fought in a long time. So, I don't know the brother's money. I don't know what, he might have had to pay bills. His dad just had his foot amputated. Okay, his younger brother died, so he might have some bills. He might have had to take that fight just because, despite being injured or whatever. So we don't know what someone else's struggle or situation is. So, I want to make that apparent. But if he had a choice and he was financially stable enough, he shouldn't have went in there with no damn injury. Okay? But being that and being injured, judges should have saw that. Like, this man hasn't threw a jab, but he's still able to do what he's doing to this guy that's supposed to be the second coming. Okay, so Magsayo is supposed to be this upset king. It's supposed to be like Ledwaba and Pacquiao. It was not. Pacquiao ran over Ledwaba. I was expecting to see that, especially against a one-armed man. Okay? And that's pretty much all I have to say about this fight. It was difficult to score, I get it. But the cleaner punches came from Gary Russell Jr. with one fucking hand. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think of Gary Russell Jr. losing a split decision to Mark Magsayo. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.